I am asking our chairman to proceed with articles of impeachment.
That this is the weakest, the thinnest impeachment in the history of America.
This process has been hijacked. I think the most radical people in the country are driving the impeachment process.
They went so hard so fast against the president that now they can't slow it down.
The Democrats are too busy hosting a panel of law professors to criticize President Trump on television.
We don't take any glee in this at all. It's heartbreaking. But the president gave us no choice.
Well, you just heard it there. The moment has arrived. Top US Democrat Nancy Pelosi says articles of impeachment against President Trump are coming. She once called impeachment a no-go. It looks likely to clear in the House, but could any Republicans break rank in the Senate, and how will the president defend what appears to be a long list of evidence against him? Well, to discuss that and to take a look at the week that was and the week that will be in the impeachment proceedings, I'm joined now by political commentator Ethan Behrman, who is in LA. Welcome to you, Ethan. Now, once upon a time, 9 months ago, Speaker Nancy Pelosi said impeachment just wasn't worth it. Now she says that articles of impeachment, they're being drafted. What moved the needle on the dial, do you think?
Well, this overwhelming evidence of what came out regarding Ukraine and this conspiracy, this extortion, this quid pro quo that happened that violates our Constitution here in the United States. You're not allowed to go to a foreign power on multiple levels here. And first off, to receive anything that would be of political gain, which would be dirt against his political rival, Joe Biden. Secondly, Congress has the authority under the tax and spend clause of our Constitution to allocate money to be spent. And in this case, they allocated money specifically to Ukraine, which President Trump held up in exchange for this fact that he wanted Ukraine to publicly announce that they were investigating his top political rival. That alone, those two items are impeachable offenses.
And those two items will likely make up the fodder in those articles that are being drafted. Impeachment in the lower house looks likely. What then, though, Ethan? Because politics already is messy right now in the United States. How much more messy could it get?
It's going to get even messier. And what makes it worse is that our process, as it's defined in the Constitution, is actually a little bit loose. It's not like a criminal trial. It's not like a civil trial. It's a unique political trial that happens with impeachment. And so, as you just pointed out, the lower house, the House of Representatives, is essentially like a grand jury, the investigative arm. They will pass it with the Democrats. It will then get handed over to the Senate, where it's more like a regular trial with a judge who's actually the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court who presides over it. And that's controlled by the Republicans, and it requires a 2/3 vote in the Senate. So this becomes a highly political situation. And what's even worse is a number of Republicans in the Senate were there when they used their power to try to impeach President Bill Clinton, who was impeached by the House, but not the Senate, to be removed. And they're going to reverse what they were saying from 20 years ago in defense of the president today.
Another aspect in all of this is the Biden aspect, with Joe Biden becoming, angry with a voter who challenged him on his son's involvement with a Ukrainian company. Let's take a listen to that exchange, and then I want to come back to you.
So you're selling access to the president just like he was. So
you're a damn liar, man. That's not true. And no one has ever said it. Not
I didn't say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
Ethan, has the impeachment inquiry backfired for Biden and his presidential bid?
I don't think so at all. Joe Biden is leading in all the national polls. I actually think that a number of voters are going to find that appealing, that he stood up for himself and his son. Now, look, Hunter Biden does have a number of issues that are facing him, but typically it's the sins of the father that reflect on the son, not the sins of the son that reflect on the father. There is zero evidence at this point tying Joe Biden at all with any of these foreign employment opportunities that made him millions of dollars, the way that we have seen with, for example, Donald Trump Jr. and his kids. So no, there's nothing that Joe Biden did that got Hunter Biden these jobs. Hunter was doing these things long before Joe Biden was vice president. He started doing it again after Joe Biden had announced he wasn't running in 2016. This is a great political fodder that is based on nothing other than a story told to divert from what is really happening with the president and that impeachment process.
Talking about the inquiry and the proceedings that will go ahead there, I mean, is there any sign of the slightest potential Republican rebellion? Any senators that may peel away their support?
Well, there's only one so far, and he's a representative in the U.S. House who quit the Republican Party over what he sees as this unconstitutional mess created by this administration. That's Justin Amash from Michigan. I don't see the Republican senators peeling away. I think that they've actually done an excellent job, politically speaking, of circling the wagons around their president, possibly giving up their political futures, because many of us will remember what they have done through this process, giving up the rule of law and their oaths to defend the Constitution. We find that, many of us find that to be very problematic, and we will remember that in the future. But the president, I sincerely doubt, will be removed from office by the Senate. I think the Republicans will hold firm.
Very briefly, one last question to you. This impeachment proceedings, how much has it held up other progress in US politics on other key issues for the country?
It really hasn't. And again, I believe that's a canard being used by the Republicans. The Democratic House of Representatives has passed over 400 bills that are being held up by the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell. And then they use that as a weapon, even though he has held up those bills on votes in the Senate, because it has to pass both houses here in the United States. They're just using that as a political weapon that has no basis, again, whatsoever.
All right, political commentator Ethan Behrman joining us from LA. Thanks for sharing your perspective.
Thank you.